Ka pai kia ora tātou. Ka timata tātou hui I tēnei rangi ki tētahi karakia. Ka pai kia karakia tātou. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mākina ki uta, kia mātaratara ki tai. E hi ake ana te ata kura, he tio, he huka, he hauhu, tihei, mauri ora. Kei aku mau ngā whakahi, kei aku puke kōrero, tātou kua I kapahi te rangi nei, ki te aha, ki te whakanui, I a koutou e haere ana ki tā wāhi, tēnei te tuku I ngā mihi ki a koutou katoa. Mokori anō, ka mihia, te hunga, kua mere tū ahi, ngā whetū taki aho, kua whakawhenuatia e te ringa hao tangata o Aitua Maki Taunu, o Aitua Nope. Rātau, te hunga mate ki a rātau tātou, te kanohi ora, tāwera kai ata, te whetū taki ata, kia ora mai tātou katoa. E rere nei, ko ngā mihi, ki tō tātou kuini Māori, a ngā waihono I te pō, e noho rā, ki runga I tōna ahurewa tapu, rire hau, pai mārire. Tēnā koutou katoa, kei aku rangatira, e ngā tauira e haere atu ana, ki ngā pito o te ao. Ko Karamea Pewhairangi tōku ingoa. My name is Karamea Pewhairangi. I am the Manager for Indigenous Internationalisation and work within the International Office and manage the Tūranga Waiwai Pōkai Whenua program. Today, we gather to celebrate your haerenga, ki tā wāhi, your journey overseas. But before you depart, I want to take a moment to reflect on where you are leaving from. This place, Aotearoa. This whenua rich with stories shaped by mountains, rivers, and footsteps of those who came before us. Our unique place in the world is not just defined by geography, but by whakapapa, our genealogy. A living connection to our ancestors and the land, and to each other. As you prepare to leave this place, I encourage you to carry with you the story of Tāwhaki. Tāwhaki was a man of great ambition and deep humility. In pursuit of sacred knowledge, he climbed to the heavens guided by karakia, by wānanga, and by his commitment to the well-being of others. He did not seek knowledge for himself alone, but to bring enlightenment back to his people. Along the way, he faced trials, learned from his mistakes, and found strength in his whakapapa. Your exchange will be your own kind of ascent, one filled with challenges, excitement, and opportunity. Like Tāwhaki, you'll encounter unfamiliar worlds, perspectives that challenge your own, and moments of deep learning. I hope you'll climb with curiosity, but also with grace. Where you are going has its own history, its own tangata whenua, people of the land. I encourage you to treat respectfully, to listen deeply, and to approach each new place with humility and openness. Learn not only from the lectures and books, but from the people and the stories of the place. At the same time, remember that you carry your own stories, your language, your values, your ways of being. You are more than just a visitor. You are a representative of this place, of your whānau, your communities, and the many layers of identity that shape you. Be safe, look out for your friends, and have fun. Because joy too is a part of learning. Let your hearts be open to new friendships, new foods, new experiences. Embrace the awkward moments, the surprises, and even the homesickness. They are all a part of the journey. Just as Tāwhaki returned to earth carrying the light of knowledge, may you also return transformed with new ideas, new ways of thinking, and a deeper understanding of both the world and yourself. Nō reira, haere rā, haere haumaru, haere whakamua. Go well, go safely, and go forward. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa.
Sorry about the noise of the wind. Thank you, Karamea. That was beautiful. And something to reflect on, you know, just before you go away is just take that time to breathe and think about where you're leaving and where you're going to, okay, because it is a really, really special moment. We're just going to go through a few of these items today. Okay, so here is the list of what we're going through. Please bear with us. Okay, it is, you know, until just before 5 that we'll go through this. We'll have a break in between for 20 minutes so you guys can mingle together and have some kai. But yeah, these are really important things to go to before you leave, and do feel free to ask any questions all the way through as well. Okay, so as you know, this is our team of Otago Global. So we have Celia as our team leader, Scott, the exchange advisor for Asia Pacific, Europe and Scandinavia, and myself as the advisor for Australia, Americas, UK and Ireland. So do make sure you hesitate, come and see us at the hub for the next 2 weeks. After that, we'll no longer be there. So your appointment times will be via video call or phone call in 2 weeks. Okay, so we're going to start this presentation today to talk about the laws that your host country might have. Okay, we've had students in the past get themselves into some interesting situations because they didn't understand legal issues, not major ones, but just something to think about before you go. When we all travel, what do we research? We research all the fun things to do, the places that we can go to, but we also need to respect the culture and what their laws might be, both legally and culturally, okay, and what is respectful in the place that you're going to, because you are a guest, okay, in that country. So, for example, it's illegal to feed pigeons in Venice. So a lot of you are heading to Europe and you'll definitely head to somewhere like this as part of your travels. These are the different things to know about. If you're going to Sri Lanka, no selfies with the Buddha. These are really important things. Illegal to run out of fuel. Hopefully, a lot of you have that New Zealand spirit on you and you like to do road trips. A lot of it you'll be able to do through train trips Europe. But if you do take a car, think of things like this. This was a real struggle for me in Singapore, okay? I went to go and stay with my sister and I have gum everywhere I go. I'll have it in my desk, I'll have it in my backpack, I'll have it with me somewhere so that after I have a meal, I've got some gum with me. It's a really expensive mistake to make when you go to Singapore. So I had to really make sure I didn't have it in any form of baggage that I had when I went over there. No stilettos, okay? Shoes are something to think about. And also, this is a lot of places in Europe as well. You've got to wear trunks, guys, instead of your board shorts or something like that. So just little things like that, please research them. You've got a lot of AI out there right now that can help guide you on your way of what best to look for. But these are just a few examples. We used to give a really serious example about a guy who had an experience in the States, but it's interesting to reflect on the worldwide kind of aspects of it as well. Okay, so the do's and don'ts. The things that you shouldn't be doing, the taboo. Please research your host country thoroughly before the departure. Learn about those cultural norms, traditions, and etiquette, and familiarise yourself with the local laws, transport, safety, tips, and emergency contacts. And also the basics of the language as well. You know, the way you say things might be quite different in another country. We have so many things in the Kiwi language that they don't use elsewhere, okay? We throw words in, we say different ways of doing things, and people just don't understand, let alone the accent. So do be aware of that as well. And even things like words that are not swear words here may be a little bit more serious somewhere else, okay? So those are the kind of things you need to think about. Don't assume that it will be the same as here, even if it's an English-speaking country. Don't ignore those cultural differences and also rely on stereotypes that you've had of that culture, because it might be a very different experience when you get there. And also leave your preparation until the last minute. Don't do that, okay? And also go open with an open mind, because honestly, sometimes you will go, oh, this is so wrong. Sometimes it's not wrong, it's just different. Okay, so that's something that you need to look at when you look at a different culture and country. Okay, there is a website called Safe Travel. Okay, we do expect you all to register yourselves on that, because if anything happens in that country, you're already registered, somebody knows where you are, and somebody can check up on you through this website. Okay, so it's a really good safety net for you to have before you travel. On your eVision portal, we're going to move into what you've already signed off, probably some of you without realizing that you signed off these pieces of information. You have put and signed off in your declaration under eVision to inform us of any circumstances that change while you travel. It is also your responsibility to follow the rules of the University of Otago while you're at the host university, and act as a respectful ambassador as well, because you are Otago ambassadors while you are on exchange. Financial obligations, you are responsible for covering all of your costs as well, including travel, visa, insurance, unless you get certain scholarships that are part of your exchange. And also you have enough funds for the full exchange period. And I'll talk a little bit about having extra funds later on as well. And also you will repay any grants or scholarships if you don't complete the required exchange duration or most of the courses. So that's something, if you didn't know, if you don't pass half your courses, you have to refund the travel grant and things like that. So just do be aware of that. We get onto the serious stuff straight away. Before you leave as well, and leading into exams, okay, this might be on the back of your mind, you'll maintain at least the GPA that was approved when your application was accepted, so you can't drop dramatically with your GPA, and especially under the required amounts. You will complete enrolment and pay tuition fees, and that will happen, enrolment will open and you'll be able to select your papers at the end of October, so do remember that. And you'll register with Safe Travel and make sure that your passport and visas are valid. You'll also need to remain full-time at Otago and at the host institution, and also check your Otago student email regularly. It's really easy when you're on exchange not to check your email. So one thing to do is, if you haven't done that already, you have a forward kind of I guess, prompt in your student email that can send it to your Gmail or your personal email account automatically. So I would do that before you go on exchange, so you continue to receive whatever does come through your student inbox. And also you will submit an exchange report within 1 month. So we have an evaluation that we ask you to fill in, and that is one of the requirements. And actually it's so beneficial for students. You'll know that if you visited a website and there's not enough evaluations, you don't know enough about that institution. So it's that paying forward aspect of the experience that you've had, please share it with other people so then they can gain that knowledge before they leave and get the most out of their experience. Okay, travel insurance. This is something that you might need to start looking at now, and especially when you book your tickets, it's something that should be done at the same time as well. There are 2 sets of requirements. There are the requirements that the Otago University guidelines cover, and you must cover them. And there's also the host institution requirements as well. So what you need to have is comprehensive travel and medical insurance. And that's from when you leave home right to when you come back, or when your exam dates finish. Any additional trips while you go on exchange, so you can get insurance so you can travel to other countries before and after and during the time that you're on exchange. That covers emergency evacuation, repatriation, if someone needs to come over and be with you, if anything happens, your personal effects and personal liability. So do think of those things when you are purchasing insurances. However, there are some institutions, not all of them, that require you, in fact, it's compulsory to have their home health insurance, but it's only health insurance, so it doesn't cover the travel aspect, and sometimes not enough of the Otago guidelines, so sometimes you might have to purchase both. So just be very wary of that. Okay, we do have a recommended insurance, so Student Safe, and basically the reason it's so good is because it covers everything that is required under the Otago guidelines for exchange. So you can head onto the website and purchase that once you buy your plane tickets. There is a code there, and if you use that code, you get a 25% discount. So as you can see, with the different, I guess, countries on the right there, you can purchase them at a much lower price, and it has a standard price on the bottom and then the discounted price at the top. It is worth getting this insurance. You never know what's going to happen to you. A lot of students have either lost items, had cancelled flights, a lot of different things. At the moment, I've had a student who went to university who out of the blue had a strike, and so they put forward the university dates exams for, I think, an extra week. And because they had booked their flights right at the end of exams, that is going to change their flights, and insurance covers that. So it's really, really important to have that. You can purchase this one online, and it's flexibility around the excess and the type of premium that you have. What's not covered under Student Safe is pre-existing conditions, eczema, asthma, autoimmune conditions, an operation that you might have previously had. So if you need extra cover, you can actually add onto it. So be aware of that. Rodeo activities, mountain and rock climbing, and racing other than on foot. So if you want to join a marathon, great. We have a lot of students that join marathons, half marathons, do a lot of great hikes and things like that, but do be very careful about the type of activities that you do. We had a student that went rock climbing in the States before she went to Canada, but her insurance didn't cover her for when she had a terrible fall, because the insurance covered her for those extra activities when she was in Canada, but not on her stopover through the States. So you've got to be very careful about the kinds of activities you do in certain countries, and make sure you have the right cover for that as well. Snowboarding, skiing outside the resort boundaries, normal dental maintenance. So that would be a general checkup or a cleaning or anything aesthetic. You can't get that through insurance. For acute pain, you can. If you've got a really, really bad toothache, they will cover you for insurance up to about $500. And also riding a motorcycle with a certain CC level, and especially traveling against the New Zealand government's advice. So again, Safe Travel is a really good site to be a part of, because they will send you information about, I guess, where you can and can't go at that time. So, and follow that. Sometimes you can have an app that you can download as well. When I was over in Turkey, they had an app to tell me that in a closer country there was something going on, and just to be aware of it, weather conditions and things like that. So do keep up to date. Okay, so if you're taking out Student Safe and you want to travel before you start studying, you will be covered, okay, as long as you declare the countries that you will be traveling to when you buy the policy. Recently, I had a student that decided to travel to another country when she was overseas, and just kind of made that last minute decision. So she just had to contact Student Safe again and add that onto her insurance while she was overseas. And can you travel to different countries? Again, like I said, as long as you declare that on the policy. And what if you're not returning to New Zealand? We often have students go to places like Australia. They love it so much, they don't have to worry about visas, so they stay on, they network, they get jobs. And so basically they can still have their insurance policy, but it will end as soon as their exchange dates finish. And then from there, they can organise their own healthcare from whatever they decide to do in that country. Okay, insurance tips. So if you visit the doctor, retain all receipts. It's really important. They need proof that you've been to the doctor, and also medical notes as well. If your bag goes missing in transit, note the airline and obtain a property irregularity report, okay? You lodge a claim with the airline and confirm if they'll provide any compensation, and then you keep receipts for emergency items that you've purchased. Okay, it's really important that if you've got a laptop, an iPhone, anything that's, of quite a lot of value, even jewelry, make sure you have proof of purchase somehow. A serial code from your, or a serial number, I guess, from your laptop is really good. Just take a photo of that. Take a photo of you with your laptop, with your phone, okay? Little things like that do help your insurance claim. And also, if your bags get stolen, again, you need to take a local police report within 24 hours of the event. So those are the little things that you need to remember. I'm going to introduce you now to Tony, who will talk about the courses that you decide to take overseas and if you need to make any changes and what your learning agreement will mean to you.
Okay, so I'm just going to talk a wee bit about academic matters. So one thing is you do need to make sure that you're taking a full-time course load at the host institution and at University of Otago, unless you're on a short exchange course. So the equivalent of 54 points is a minimum, and whatever the minimum is for your host institution. That's very important for visa, well, to meet your visa requirements, you have to be full-time studying. You must have approval for all the papers that you're taking on exchange. So that's whether or not you're taking them towards majors and minors, which you need approval from the academic in that particular department, or that you've had the papers signed off by student development. So additional papers. So once you get there, you might find that they're offering new papers that you'd rather take. Some of the papers you've got on your learning agreement may not be available, or other reasons. Papers might be full. So some of the host institutions, they do have number limits on papers. The best way to do that, so papers that aren't actually approved, well, I should say, to make changes to your learning agreement, then in the handbook, the exchange handbook that you've got access to, it has a link in there to take you to a web form, and on there you either just, if it's just for points, so if it's an elective paper, then you can just send it straight through on that form, and student development will update your learning agreement and approve that change, let you know what credit you'd receive for the paper. And if it's for a paper that's counting towards any majors or minors, just get that signed off by the academic. So email the academic. When they come back saying that they've approved you to take the paper, then just forward that, just attach that as part of that web form and send it through. The main reason that you want to keep your learning agreement updated is that when your transcript comes back, if the papers that you've taken are listed on your learning agreement, then it's a very easy process of matching them up, and then we'll put the credit through to student records for them to load onto your record. If the papers don't match up with the papers on the learning agreement don't match up with the papers you've taken on your exchange, then you will need to go and try and get confirmation or approval of those papers at that stage. And we have had a couple of times where students have thought the paper would be okay, and when they've come back, it turns out that the department hasn't given them the credit that they've wanted for the paper, and which has meant they've had to do an extra semester. So especially if you're in your final semester, make sure you just keep that learning agreement up to date. Once again, not sure what's going on there. And sorry, there was something I was going to say then as well. But yeah, just make sure, and what it was don't update your learning agreement and then send that in. So once you've got your completed learning agreement, all updates are just through that web form. So please don't change your learning agreement and send it back out to academics or anything like that. Just do it through email and through that web-based form. As it says there, papers not approved will not count towards major requirements unless your academic will then approve that credit for that paper. But as I mentioned before, don't wait until after exchange to try and get that approval. Just make sure you've got that approval beforehand, just so you know that you're on the right track to complete your degree, or to at least tick off papers that you need towards your degree. It also mentions flexibility. So this is originally when we talked about your learning agreement, we're mentioning to put some extra papers on there. And it's very important that you do have some extra ones there just in case. As I mentioned before, though, if they are offering new papers or you come across papers that you weren't aware of, then feel free to change those papers if you want to, as long as you're getting approval. But the biggest thing is, if you need credit for a compulsory paper, so a specific paper, then it's good to try and find at least 2 papers that are equivalent to that paper, or that the academic will give you credit for that paper for. And this can just stop you getting in a situation where it's meant to be your final semester. You've gone over there with this one paper that's meant to be equivalent to the paper that you need, only to find out that you can't get into that paper, and then you haven't got an equivalent for the paper that you need. For example, Mart 301 is usually taught in semester 2, and for 300 level marketing, that's the only actual specified paper that you need. But if you don't get the equivalent to that on exchange, then it does mean having to complete Mart 301 in semester 2 of the following year, which obviously isn't ideal at all. So you receive credits for the papers that you've passed. So grades don't come back over to Otago, only points. But you can submit that the transcript that you get from the host institution if you're applying for any postgraduate programs, or you need a GPA calculator for anything in particular, then you can use the transcript from the host institution as part of that application. But just on your actual transcript or your academic record at Otago, it'll just come across as points. There won't be a grade associated with those papers. So as you can see, some host institutions offer pass-fail, but if you can, opt for the full grade option, and then that way you can use that transcript that'll have your grades on it rather than just pass-fail. And then return the exchange learning agreement form to your exchange advisor. Does anyone have any questions on that in the meantime? Okay, so just really going to go over the learning agreement again. So you've all should have, hopefully have you finished your learning agreement and have a completed copy. Once again, you can see, so here we've got somebody who is doing classics and history. We can see they've been signed off by classics and history, which is very handy. And it's just a case of remembering if you do need to add any papers onto that subject area, then you would need to email that particular department to get the credit. I think, is there anybody that's still got a learning agreement outstanding for their exchange? Might be. Okay, so there could be. So anyway, I'll go through a wee bit more just if the people there that are still trying to complete off their learning agreement. So you want to list the papers that you're wanting to take on the exchange at the host institution, and then you need to take that to the academic, the relevant academic. So if you're doing history or classics, then obviously you'd go to those departments. There's a spreadsheet that you would have been sent a copy of with the academics and the departments that will sign off on that learning agreement. So just go and see them, and they should sign off down that column. They'll also write on the next page, they'll write if they've got anything that they want to mention, or that you need to know about the credit that they're going to award you. So you can see here for classics, and basically they've said that the student can do as many papers as the student wants. So some departments will sign off on, especially in your final year papers, some departments will sign off on all 4 of them, some only on a couple of them. And it's good to know before you go how many that they'll sign off on. So for instance, politics and psych will only give you a maximum of 36 300 level points on your exchange. So they may let you take extra papers in politics or psych, but you won't get 300 level credit for those papers. That'll either come through as, depending on psych, whether you're doing a BSc or a BA, they'll come through as either arts unspecified or science unspecified credit once you get over those 36 points. They may also have a wee note in there if there's anything in particular they want you to make sure you pay attention to. Sometimes they could write in there, so if there's a particular paper that you need for your major requirements, they might even just put a wee note in there saying, make sure you do a paper that's equivalent to Mart 301 or another specified paper. And then for this, and then section E, so we've got the academics have both signed off. We can see we've got the classics and the history academics to sign off. And then that's when student development will sign off on section E. When you're on exchange, if you are making any paper changes, always make sure that you check back with section E, just so you're aware of how many credits or points or units you need to do at your host institution to get either your 3 or 4 papers at Otago. We'll quite often, if you do have papers to add onto your learning agreement, we'll quite often just mention that in our return email to you, just to make sure that you check section E, just so you know exactly how many credits you need to do. Next one down, we can see this person has got a lot of choices for their paper options. You don't have to have as many as that, but I can almost guarantee this person didn't have to make any updates to their learning agreement, because it looks like they've listed just about every paper their host institution offers. And we've basically got zoology and ecology. And a similar thing, we've got section D where the academics have written the notes in there. They've basically put down, requires 3 more zoology 300 level papers. And they've actually gone into quite a bit of detail on the zoology and ecology front. But they will put any notes in there that they want you to pay particular attention to. And once again, we've got section E. We will check whether or not you're a finalist. So I know you've indicated on the front of your learning agreement whether you will be or not. We'll also do another check just to make sure. Sometimes it can be difficult to list you as a finalist if it's not going to be your final semester on exchange, a combination of that and when paper selection opens. So sometimes if you're putting in your learning agreement for semester 1 next year, but of course paper selection hasn't open for 2026 yet, so you're not able to pick your semester 2 papers. So when we get your learning agreement, even though you may be planning on being a finalist next year, we won't be able to list you as a finalist until all your papers are selected. So with semester 1, if you're going to be a finalist in semester 1, it's a wee bit different. If you're going to be a finalist in semester 2, we may need to change your finalist status to no in the meantime. And then once paper selection's been through, we can update that. Same with semester 2, people go on exchange in semester 2. Quite often they haven't picked semester 1 papers, so we just have to change their final status. Don't panic about that though. And when you do pick your papers for semester 2 next year, if you're not a finalist on exchange, then just indicate that you'll be a finalist if you're going to be a finalist in semester 2. If you're not going to be a finalist, then don't mark it at all. And I think that's about that for that slide. And now I'm handing over to Scott.
Kia ora, Tefana. I just want to check, can you hear me okay at the back? Okay, cool. Right, my voice will get steadily quieter. So go on, losing it slowly. So visas, legally, we can't give you visa advice. So this will be nice and short and sweet. Your visa advice will come to you directly from your host university. Most people, I imagine, here in the room will be going through the application process, if not finished the application process. But anything around visas will come from the host university that you're going to, which is great. You don't have to rely on me, which is not a good thing. So do read through what you need for the visa. If you need to go to the consulate or anything like that, hopefully you've had some idea already if you need to go to the consulate somewhere in the country, or if you need to send your passport away. So do have a look at the criteria that they ask of you. For those of you who are kind of already maybe just starting the kind of visa process, places like Spain, for example, are advising like 2 months of processing time, which is a month more than what they usually offer. Many places in Europe are actually having increasingly longer wait times, and part of that is due to the war in Ukraine, with having kind of refugees and prioritizing those people. So just bear in mind, have a bit of patience, but we haven't had any students have any issues not getting their visa in time. If you are doing a full year exchange, please make sure there's no issues going from one country to another if you're going to two different countries. And probably the last thing, probably one of the most important things, is that you actually need your acceptance letter to apply for your visa. So if you're wondering and hoping to get it in really quickly, you will have to wait until your acceptance letter arrives. study link. So importantly, one thing to really flag up is that you can't access your study link from overseas. And what I mean by that is that you can't contact study link from overseas. So you need to make sure that it's all sorted before you depart, or you can have an agent or a nominated family member, for example, represent you on your behalf. Ideally, you don't need to do that if you have everything ticked off and sorted. Make sure you apply for your loan and your allowance as usual, and make sure you include semester 2, 2026 if you are on a full year exchange as well. We will send you out part 2 of your study link form, which you can bind to your form and send away, and we'll be sending that out in early November. Now, a big one to remember is that payments are only made once you're actually studying. StudyLink takes the dates from your acceptance letter, and they pay in arrears as well. So you would likely receive your first payment in your second week of study. Please make sure you have enough savings to cover that time before you start study. So that can be a little bit of a break in between, and that payment will go through right until the end of your exams as well. So IID, this one really only applies if you're going to be away for over specifically 184 days, but we will provide you with a letter to pass on to IID to confirm your study dates. We'll send this letter out in April next year, as it's not a priority, it's not needed beforehand. So awards, so for your travel grant and any other awards that you're getting, like Matariki grant, any kind of alumni scholarships, for example, payments will be made into your accounts on February 2026. Please make sure you've completed your Otago registration, so within uni for 2026, that you've provided us with your proof of insurance. And very importantly, please make sure you've given us your bank details, because we definitely can't pay you without those. You can put those through on your eVision portal. So if you're not quite sure, check onto your eVision portal to see if your bank details are there. Every semester when we run the payments, there's quite a few that the payments don't go through because they haven't put through their bank details. So just kind of check nice and early and make sure they're up to date. Okay, so the survey. So a lot of what we're talking about, kind of passing on kind of insurance letters, acceptance letters, things like that, that comes through to us from the survey, which you need to complete. So it's a very, very important one to get your travel grant and everything. We need to see your acceptance letter. We need to see your proof of insurance and your permanent residency form if you're a permanent resident as well. So you'll be able to access this once we send out the presentation after, but in the meantime as well, you can kind of scan through the code. If you've got your acceptance letter and your insurance, then you can just go ahead and submit that straight through to us as well. So graduation, if you're a finalist, you're intending to graduate, please make sure that you indicate you're a finalist on eVision. To graduate, you'll need to supply us with your transcript post-exchange, and we'll upload this to student development as a priority. So the day it comes into our inbox, we'll upload it to student development. Transcripts can take a while to come through. We can't do anything about this. It often depends on the kind of time of the year that the host university that you're going to processes their transcripts. For example, Otago, we do it at the end of semester year. And for other universities, their academic years will obviously differ to ours here at Otago. So we can't chase them or chivvy them, unfortunately. So just bear that in mind if you're kind of looking to kind of graduate at a certain time. One thing we will flag is that you probably might not be able to graduate with your cohort as well, but you do get to spend 6 months to a year in an amazing location. So it's a nice trade-off. With those dates, yeah, you can see the dates up there. Just kind of bear in mind that's when you probably need to get your transcript in by, and give you an idea of if you submit your transcript by those dates, that's the following graduations when you'll be able to graduate. Have a look as well for your student email. So when you are on exchange in a place like Lund, for example, they'll give you their student email as well. Some universities can send you the transcript through to your Lund student email rather than through to your Otago one. And that can trip a few students up, particularly as it's been maybe a couple of months after you've left exchange. No one's really thinking about checking their Lund student email account, but that can kind of trip you up because they can kind of send it there instead. So just after exchange, they will tell you where they send the transcript, but just keep an eye on things like your old student email, just to make sure you haven't missed anything like that as well. Cool. All right. Well, good news. We're going to take a bit of a break and have some kai. So please feel free to come and join us as well. And yeah, we'll go over and have a quick karakia mo te kai, and then you're welcome to mingle and chat to us about anything as well. Come.
Yeah, well, we literally can't do anything. I know.
Kia ora, everyone. I recognize a couple of faces, which is really, really nice. I am going to talk to you really quickly about Kiwi hosting. Now, this is something for after you get back from your lovely exchange. We are looking, I'm currently recruiting for 2026, but we'll also be recruiting for 2027. So as you come to the end of your exchange, this is something you might want to think about if you're coming back to Otago. It is the accommodation that we provide for the exchange and study abroad students who come to Otago itself. What we do is we put a Kiwi host, which is a domestic student, in the flat with a whole lot of internationals. It's not a paid role, but you do get discounted rent from what the internationals pay. And the role is just to welcome them, make sure that they're adjusting to Kiwi culture okay, show them around campus. The more you put into your experience as a Kiwi host, the more you get out of it. The contracts are a bit shorter normally. We do offer single semester Kiwi hosting as well as full academic year. The Kiwi host contracts are a little bit shorter. So I think the single semester ones are about 20-21 weeks. And the full year one is around 42 weeks, I think, 46 weeks. So it's a little bit less on either side as well. Obviously I don't have the rent prices for 2027 yet, which is when you guys would consider it. But for 2029, the rent price is $229.50 per week, which includes power and internet. So you can blast the heat pump, you can be warm, you don't have to worry about any of that stuff when you get back. If you are interested at any stage or would like to know more information, the Kiwi host at otago.ac.nz is how you contact us. I work with Scott and Louisa, so when you guys are away on your exchanges, we will send you some information about Kiwi hosting as little reminders if you are interested or not. It's a great way to meet more international students and give back. And have an exchange again in a place that you know is what we kind of get from a lot of people, and people that have been on exchange themselves and they understand what our international students are going through make the best Kiwi hosts. So I really like to have as many of you as I can. Any questions while I'm here? I know it's a far away way because you guys are more focused on mutual exchange, but no? Perfect. All right, well, thank you. Nice reading.
Cool. Right, thanks, Jenna. And it is a fantastic opportunity if you can kind of make that work coming back from your exchange. So do reach out with the email there as well. So the quote is actually taken from an excellent book called Ladies of the Borobudur, and it's about culture shock living in Indonesia. So the next few slides are just going to have a little kororo around culture shock, around kind of your own safety and the comfort that you have. And I think we're kind of looking at it as a pretty obvious metaphor in terms of the comfort we have as maybe a little bit of caterpillar, maybe like me and how I feel, particularly after I eat. But as you kind of go through in Otago, you're kind of feeling, yeah, Otago is my place, like this is my home. And then kind of going out on exchange, it's quite exciting. But when you're on exchange, you're experiencing a different world. And even if it's Australia, but it could also be, you know, like so Japan, it could be, you know, Scandinavia, Canada and America, and you will be changing with that. You can barely say the word metamorphosis, but you'll be experiencing that. And so that's really kind of quite reflective of that, kind of changing into a butterfly, which is quite cool. But there's a lot to kind of process, I guess, when you're kind of on exchange as well about what that will look like and just kind of making sure that you're kind of preparing yourself. So some of you may have been overseas for quite a few times. For others, it might be the very first time that you've gone overseas. It's often considered a fairly pretty much a rite of passage for Kiwis to go overseas, but we don't really talk about culture shock, about being overseas and what that actually feels like. Being away from whānau, being away from friends. I'm not trying to talk you out of exchange, just to be really clear. So really want you to go. But being in a different environment and with kind of different languages, a lot of kind of diverse, I guess, people and audiences around you, it is very normal to feel uncertain. It is very normal to feel a bit confused. It is very, very normal to feel anxious as well. I lived overseas for a long time and I traveled to quite a few different countries. I still experienced it every place I went to, even if it was just a holiday. So there's a few kind of phases, I guess, you can kind of go through to kind of adapt to kind of being on exchange. So the honeymoon stage, the kind of excitement, anticipation. When I was in London, I arrived there for the first time when I was much younger. And I went off to the museum because I'm a massive nerd. And I went off with my backpack and kind of quite jaunty, hopping onto the train and all being kind of like really excited. I climbed up out of St. Pancras Station. I went to walk along the street and I got absolutely body slammed by this like 98-year-old woman. I thought it was the Queen because she had the kind of curls and everything like that. And it was a real fully shoulder charge me into the pret-a-manger. And it was an absolute shock, but that's kind of what London was like. And I was used to Dunedin. I was used to people kind of giving you that personal space and everything like that. And London, get out of the way. Whatever age you are, pensioner, child or whatever, they'll not muck around, kind of shove you out of the way. So you do kind of experience that and kind of like, oh, that is a shock to be kind of like fully like thrown against the wall by an elderly person. But you do eventually learn to kind of adjust to the way things are and kind of like by the end of it, by the end of your exchange, by the end of like my time there, I was body slamming old ladies against the wall as well myself. So it was quite, you learn to kind of roll with it and that's what it's like. But it can be quite confronting. It is, different, but learn to kind of see that as an amazing thing. You're growing. Every time you kind of go somewhere new, your brain is learning, your body's kind of learning, and you're kind of growing as an adult, which is an absolutely fantastic opportunity for you to kind of experience that, but within the safety of being an Otago student as well. So how to overcome it? So pretty much big thing is do your research. You're all fantastic students. You've got the GPA to go. So have a look at kind of where you're going and not just kind of looking at your courses or looking at the uni and the accommodation, but look at the city that you're going to be in, look at the country you're going to be in, looking at how you're kind of going to get to your classes, get to campus. Are you going to take a train or a tram? Are you going to walk? Are you going to cycle? What's it like? In terms of like kind of ordering your coffees, like do you kind of do a little bit of Duolingo before you go to kind of prep yourself for ordering something? I was over in France last year in a different part of France and I was trying to order an ice cream and they just didn't want to kind of speak in English. And why not? Because, that France is obviously their country and they're speaking French. And it kind of forced me to have to kind of learn how to ask for things. And so if you're having a little bit of kind of preparation in terms of like what you need to ask, you just quickly kind of Google or something like that, it can actually make your experience a lot more positive rather than feeling kind of confronted and being like, oh my goodness, I didn't know what to say. And it was a whole thing. So just do that research, kind of have a look at kind of where you're going, in terms of your home, in terms of like your accommodation, all that kind of around the place, how you're getting there, places that you can eat, kind of phrases that you need to learn if you're living somewhere where English isn't your first language. But embrace it. When I was in London, for me, like I'm quite a heavy introvert, so I looked at like things like off-peak train times, places kind of like maybe avoid people a little bit if being on the tube in the rush hour is quite scary. So kind of having a look at things like that, when would be the best time for you to kind of go and do your exploring if you're like me and kind of terrified of people. Having a look at kind of like Google Maps and kind of finding your way around as well. Places like Morocco and Egypt, when I went to, you kind of look into local customs, looking at kind of how they approach things. If they come up and talk to you, I found it quite confronting until I learned that that's actually that's the norm. I'm just in a different country. They're not being rude or mean to me. That's just who they are. And it's for me to kind of adapt to that. And once you kind of realize that it isn't a personal attack on you, you soon learn to kind of adjust and kind of end up enjoying it as well. Now, the student support side of things, really important to highlight. Where you're going will have student support for you, and it will be amazing. We do check these things. If you do need any help at all, they will be your first port of call. You can talk to us as well if you need to. We will be there. Obviously, we aren't going to be in country with you, but we will be on the other side of the emails. But your student support at your host university will help you with anything you need to. If you need to talk to them about something, the earlier the better is often kind of, well, pretty much always the best thing to do. And for things like kind of like if you have issues with your course or your lecturer, you know, maybe kind of examinations or things like that, please don't leave them till the last minute to raise. If you maybe want to change your paper, don't leave it until the last day to withdraw from that paper and change to another. Make sure you do it kind of straight away. The earlier the better is always really good. But like I said, if you have any kind of issues, if you go to student supported, maybe they're not kind of hearing what you want to say, do let us know and we can also reach out to them as well with your permission. The only other thing is to highlight is our return culture shock. It is real. Your eyes will definitely be kind of widely open in terms of experiencing the world outside of New Zealand, but do spare us a thought for kind of friends and whānau who didn't get to go and maybe have to listen to you for an extended period of time. It can be quite hard on them as well. So just kind of manage their expectations and what they kind of can kind of listen to as well, because you will have amazing adventures and you want to share them. But yeah, you'll just kind of pace yourself a little bit. Now, we've spoken a lot, but we have a couple of return students who went away on exchange, and we're very, very lucky that they've agreed to share their experiences. First up is Eliza Goldsmith, who went to Leeds this year.
Hi everyone. Yeah, so I went to the University of Leeds at the start of this year and had the most amazing time. Is anyone going to Leeds or England? You're going to have so much fun. It's seriously like the most awesome place, and it's not too different from New Zealand. So I feel like there wasn't a huge culture shock that you might get in somewhere where they speak a different language. But for me, I feel like the biggest culture shock was that the UK is like so much bigger than New Zealand in terms of people. So it's like just so much busier. There's people everywhere, and you just kind of have to be a bit more cautious about your things and like who's around you, which was definitely a bit of a culture shock for me, because you don't realize how safe you are in New Zealand compared to somewhere where there's so many more people. But yeah, my other culture shock that kind of took a little bit to get used to was the exchange rate, and realizing that it's not going to change. You have to spend your money, and you have to actually, like I found it quite hard seeing how much the NZD dollar was to the pound when I was paying for things. But once you get rid of the notifications on your Wise app, you'll realize it's fine. But yeah, so that was definitely a bit different. But yeah, so some reverse culture shocks, which definitely is a thing. It's real. Yeah, people do not care as much as you think about your experience. People love to hear about it, but yeah, it's quite crazy. You've experienced all these amazing things, and you come back and everything's like really similar here. And yeah, they talked about the Kiwi hosting flats, which I definitely recommend doing if you're going in the first semester or second semester, because it has everything you need for your flat. Like you don't have to buy a bed again, you don't have to get kitchen stuff again. It's all there, and yeah, you don't have to pay for the whole, like I don't have to pay for the whole summer this semester, which is really good. But yeah, you're gonna have such an amazing time. Don't be scared. You're gonna make heaps of friends. Everyone's on the same boat as you, all the international students, and they'll want to travel and have fun, and everyone's really open to trying new things. And that's just what you've got to be, is don't be afraid, and yeah, be excited to learn new things. And yeah, you're gonna have so much fun. Yeah, if anyone has any questions, feel free to come up to me later about Leeds or England or anything. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Eliza. And our next guest is Georgia Tattersall, and she went to the Chinese University of Hong Kong in Sem 2 last year.
Kia ora, everyone. Yeah, so I was really privileged to go on exchange in semester 2 last year. Just for a bit of background, I studied law and Chinese, and then did a variety of papers when I was in Hong Kong, including anthropology, Chinese language, and I did a Chinese civil law paper, which was really interesting as well. Something inevitable about living in a foreign country is, of course, what we're talking about, culture shock. So I'm going to share some of my experiences with culture shock living in Hong Kong. So the first was sharing a room. Some universities, it's just normal to share a room with people. You don't get your individual room, particularly in Hong Kong because space is so limited. Residential buildings often have like 50 to 70 floors just because any space is so valuable. So that's why everyone ends up sharing a room on campus. It took a while to get used to. My roommate had a very different sleep schedule to me. She would often study until like 2 a.m. at night. But yeah, it's just something that you adjust to. And it really wasn't that bad at all. It's a great way to actually get to know someone. My roommate was actually a local as well. So I got to learn like some really fascinating insights about what it was like growing up in Hong Kong. The second thing is cash is king. So although in New Zealand where you don't often need to use cash, it was essential in Hong Kong. This also means watch out for crazy ATM fees because I lost so much money on the ATM fees. So maybe consider an international card, like a Wise card, like you were saying, because that can really help. The other thing was umbrellas. Everyone always has an umbrella on them and no one wears raincoats. Like you look weird if you're wearing a raincoat. And also umbrellas are not just for the rain, they're for the sun. You know, it's a great means of shade. So yeah, consider carrying an umbrella. Language differences, and I think a lot of people are gonna relate to this on their experience, but I don't speak any Cantonese, which is the main language in Hong Kong. I'm lucky that I can speak a bit of Mandarin if no one can speak English. And I think that really came in useful, especially when like ordering taxis or just ordering food in general. But I did have a few mistakes. I told one person that I have only studied Chinese for 4 months, but I've studied it for 3 years. So be aware that there can be some communication difficulties. Yeah, my last one is really unique to Hong Kong, but I think it really highlights just like the strange cultural nuances that you can experience. At every restaurant, you're given an extra bowl and then hot water or a hot tea. And this is because you're supposed to put your utensils in to wash them there. They're clean, they've gone in the dishwasher, but it's just this random cultural practice that everyone does. So yeah, I think reverse culture shock probably hit me even harder. Coming back to New Zealand can feel incredibly slow, like living in a fast-paced, dynamic city, and coming back here, you really feel the quiet life. I think maybe one shop changed in Dunedin while I was gone, but probably in Hong Kong, just while I was on the plane back to New Zealand, maybe 50 or so shops had changed. So yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, culture shock, I think, makes the experience even more fascinating. My exchange was definitely the most like memorable, exciting, and meaningful experience of my life. So I hope it can be that for you too. And I'm looking forward to hearing some of your experiences maybe.
Okay, you're back to me and I talk about the most interesting things every time. So, and now I'm getting to the stage of booking flights. A lot of you will be thinking, when do I book my flights? Do I book it now? Do I book it later? Do I book it when I get my acceptance letter? Do be cautious about booking your flights, okay? So be cautious with cheap fares, okay? Because sometimes those cheap fares have the least flexibility, okay? And you can find yourself in some interesting situations. And can be more expensive to change in the long run. So basically, once you confirm the key dates of your host institution, the arrival date, and especially the orientation date, and the last day of exams, you can pretty much book your flights, okay? The reason I say this is we used to say to students, wait till you get your acceptance letter and then book them. But what happens is often it's way more expensive down the line of when you receive the acceptance letter. So sometimes it's worth booking them and then making them flexi flights. And what flexi flights means is you may pay an extra $200 or $300, but it means that if you need to change the date or location or whatever you need to do, or even the dates at a later date, you can do that rather than then paying maybe an extra $500-600 down the track because you've left it closer to the time. Okay, so that's something to think about as well. And especially if your visa hasn't arrived, you're not sure what's going on with your visa application, you can book your flights, but it means that if you make them very flexible, you can change them to something completely different if you need to. Flexibility does matter, okay? So do make sure that's an option. Visa rules as well, you need to make sure that you know when you can enter a country, okay? Booking flights to somewhere else before you go to your end location of exchange, that's another thing to remember, especially in Europe. Some people have wanted to do like Kentucky tours around Europe, but as part of that, they end up in their country that they're supposed to go to for exchange as part of that Kentucky tour. And sometimes that can affect your actual visa of getting into there for your exchange. So just be aware of those kind of things as well. Expert help. Often a travel agent is the nicest person to have on hand if you like that security, okay, to be able to call someone at another place and get them to sort it all out for you as well. And protect yourself. I mentioned this earlier about travel insurance. Book that at the same time as your flight, so then that protects you even before you leave as well. Okay, I also said this earlier, take photos of all your valuables and luggage for insurance and personal reference. So serial numbers, just photos of you with your phone, what's on the cover of your phone, purchase details. You might find an email that you just want to put in a safe file so you can get back to that later if you need to. Track your bags. You can add so many luggage trackers now. Our team leader actually had an experience. She arrived in a country and they could not find her bag. And she said, it's here. I can literally, it's a few steps away. It was in the next room, but for some reason they had missed it. But because of her tracker, she was able to actually find it herself as well. Back up your documents. Keep 3 copies of your passport and key travel documents. Okay, 1 digital, 1 at home in New Zealand with your family or friends, and 1 with you. Now, I know people don't like to print things out, but what happened with my son is he went over to Japan and he got so fascinated with the bathrooms in the airport that he got distracted and left his passport there and left and went to the hotel. Okay, I had snuck some kind of printed forms of his passport in his luggage. His phone had gone flat where his digital information was, and obviously he didn't have his passport. So those printed versions came in handy for him to go back to the airport. And within an hour, because Japan is so honest, he got his passport back and was ready to head away. So whatever you feel comfortable with, do that. And also stay connected. So share your travel plans with family or a trusted friend. People will worry about you more than you think, especially your parents, okay? And just be conscious of that. They will want to just have a check-in every now and then, even if it's saying, oh, this is what I'm doing today. They just want to hear from you, okay, to make sure you're okay, especially when you leave, arrive, and when you're on your way back or traveling to another country. In case of emergency, just know where your local embassy is. It's really important to know where that is as soon as you arrive in the country, in case you just have to end up there for some reason, okay? And keep in touch through travel blogs or messages and things like that. You have no idea what kind of people will be interested in what you have to say as well. So it could be another kind of journey for you there. Okay, travel tips as well. Some of you might be on medication, okay, that you need to have. Some countries allow you to bring in 3 months of medication, some might be less, some might be more, okay? So stock up on any prescription medicine that you need to have before you leave, but it's also really good to know about the services or inquire about them at the university before you arrive. They might have a similar version of student health and a doctor that you may need to contact for those specific medication options, and to know what the costs might be involved as well. Pack a first aid kit. I cannot say this enough. Like, you can get something like a paper cut and you can bleed out. Okay, so, and this is when you're rustling through your luggage and everything like that. So have something on you, Panadols for long flights when you get headaches, something to help you sleep better, something first aid. Always have, you know, an option of that available either in your hand luggage and something a little bit bigger in your full luggage as well. Check your vaccinations. We don't need as many at the moment in New Zealand, but in other countries, you may need vaccinations that you've never sometimes heard of or need in New Zealand, but you will need when you go there as well. And get expert advice early. So please contact your doctors, make an appointment if you need to talk about what you need to take over there, if it's something that you have on a regular basis. Okay, money and banking. Please notify your bank and let them know that you're traveling and check what options are available for your overseas use. Check out the machines as well, because sometimes some machines work with your card and others don't. Okay, so you will need some backup options. As Georgia mentioned earlier, do carry some cash with you. Take a small amount of local currency, and it's widely accepted from me. Catching a taxi in Turkey, I only ever could use cash. It just seemed to be the way to go. So it's always, especially when you arrive at the airport, and that's the only option you had at that time, it's really, really important to do. Mix it up, okay? Bring more than one way to access money. Wise is really good. There's also one in Revolut in Europe as well. That's another really good one because you can transfer it with other European students or friends that you meet over there. Okay, so that's something that they use. Know the costs, okay? To withdraw fees, your bank card is going to cost you way more than a Wise card. Okay, so that's why a lot of people will use Wise card when they're over there. Consider a travel card like that, and be safe. Don't put all your cards together in one place where they're all going to get stolen together. And be careful what you keep on your phone as well, in case someone can access that. Keep a buffer. So always make sure you have adequate funds available. You could use your luggage, so lose it. So you may end up having to buy a few items for a few days to keep you going, because you're certainly not going to get reimbursed for your insurance that day or even maybe a week later. So you want to have a buffer. We had a student that went to, I think it was Edinburgh, and he lost his phone and he desperately wanted to get a brand new iPhone. And it's like, I need insurance to hurry up and pay me so I can buy it. And it's like, well, no, it's important that you may have enough on you just in case, you know, you need to buy one right there and then get reimbursed maybe a week or two later, because it won't happen straight away. So that's what I mean by a buffer. Make sure you have something as an emergency fund just in case. And don't hesitate to call out to people if you need it, okay? Don't be embarrassed to call mum or dad or a friend or something like that if you do need something like that, because you don't want to be stuck or in a situation where it can have a, you know, affect your mental health while you're away, because for a couple of weeks you're not doing okay financially. Okay. And do let us know if anything like that happens. Stay local. Okay, so there's lots of free activities that you can get into where you're here. Like we said, it's a lot bigger than New Zealand, so there's a lot going on and you can get involved in. Stay local, check your neighbourhood calendar or community board, and it's a great way to get involved with your community. Join the local netball team or the soccer team, or you know, do a marathon or something like that, just to keep yourself connected with the locals. Travel smart, okay, going during the off seasons. So winter in Paris is obviously a lot cheaper. If you went during the June to July period, it is crazy in Europe, everywhere. Okay, there are just people everywhere and it takes you ages to wait in line. So just think about those as well. Shop like a local, so buy food and essentials where local shop, and steer clear of tourist traps and overpriced restaurants. Previous to this role, I was an international student advisor for 6 years for international students coming in. And one of their guidance we had to say to them is, please don't do your first big major shop at the night and day store, because that's what they were doing. And they were like shocked at the prices. We were like, go to the local supermarket. But for them, that was the first shop that they could see when they arrived at their flat. So they just went straight there and did a big shop. So it's those kind of things to think about. Get around cheaply, walk, cycle, and use public transport. Especially, there's a lot of places you'll go on exchange where cycling is just so normal and people are everywhere on their bikes. And sometimes it's a little bit faster to go on a bike, buy a cheap one, get around. It's the best experience. And student perks as well. Consider getting an international student identity card for discounts worldwide. So this can often help you with travel as well. So do check out at your university where one can be available and, you know, the opportunities that you can take from that as well. Okay, as we said earlier, final travel tips: be educated about where you're going, respect local customs, carry different ways of cash, have a copy of your passport at all times. You are representing New Zealand, so that will be their impression. So do remember that, especially for you are the ambassador for students who might think about coming to New Zealand as well. So be very mindful of it. As much as you think people aren't looking, they may pay attention all the same. Don't be afraid to ask for help. They will have international support services, like Scott said. They will have a team that looks after international students coming in, and also have a communication plan with family and friends. As much as you think you've got it, okay, sometimes people on the other side of the world don't know that, and they just want to be reassured. And also just know that you're okay. It stops them from staying up at night. I know when I was overseas, my mum barely slept, okay, because I'm not a great person for communication and keeping in touch. So because of that experience, I'm aware of what that did to her as well. And the idea of keeping in touch, and just even if it's a little text, we've got so many technological advantages now. So just use them to send a little message to mum or dad or your sisters, okay, or brothers. Another one is and travel with an open mind. I said this earlier, sometimes it's not wrong, it's just different. You just have to look at it that perspective. You will come back so completely changed. And when you come back here, you will see people who think in the same way that you might have thought before you left, but your mind will be completely opened up with experiences, and you will see the world in a completely different way. So just go there knowing that that's going to happen. Okay.
Oh, okay, so we're nearly finished. So just in terms of if you want to kind of connect with other students, we've got a couple of closed Facebook groups that you can join. The links are up here. And obviously we'll make sure that you get a copy of the presentation as well. It's quite good to kind of connect with other students who are kind of going out. Maybe they're going to where you're going, and you can kind of meet up, and, you know, it's nice to know that there's other Otago students that are going as well. You can feel that little bit of sense of reassurance, and maybe you can kind of link up together and stuff as well. And again, you've got the Dunedin Flats one as well to kind of link up to for accommodation coming back. So the Otago ambassadors. So if you're big on the socials, you can take over our Instagram for the day and share photos and videos of your adventures, or you can send us some photos to share. We fly a desk in our office and we get very green with envy with the beautiful photos that come through from students who are on exchange or back. So it's amazing to see the incredible adventures you have. We also really want to encourage other students to go as well. And that only really comes with experiences like yourself, like Eliza and Georgia sharing where they've been, you know, evaluations. As Louisa said before, sometimes you look on the website, there's no evaluations. You know, it's really kind of on you if you can kind of tell us how your exchange experience went. If you can share some photos with us, it can really help kind of promote exchange and help kind of the next cohort of students like yourselves going out to know where they want to go and see that Otago students have kind of trailblazed a path there before. And then you'll be doing us a fantastic service, but also really encouraging other students to go too. So please feel free to send us some photos and videos. And yeah, if you're big on kind of Instagram and stuff like that, we'd love you to kind of share what you're up to over there. And just for exchange documents, so just kind of reiterate that we will give you a copy of the exchange presentation that you can view. And then the other big one is the Global Exchange Handbook. So you've been given a copy of that. You can access the link. That will have pretty much everything that we've kind of covered here as well. So you can keep referring back to that. Quite a few pages on your learning agreement, things like that, graduation, everything like that as well, including kind of how to do changes and everything to your learning agreement if you need to. So just please don't hesitate to kind of refer to that. But Louisa and myself are here to respond to any kind of questions you have before you go, while you're over there, and when you come back as well. That's part of our job. So very happy to help. Don't hesitate to kind of reach out. So that's pretty much our presentation. Before I kind of get into the karakia, it's probably our last chance to see you all together. So we really just want to wish you well in advance of you going, a really happy, safe and amazing exchange. But please do kind of keep in touch with us around your applications, how you're getting on, if there's anything we can help with. As I said, we're very, very happy to help. We'll only be at the hub for 2 more weeks, I think. Yeah, but we will be available online and we can kind of meet and do any kind of online meetings if you need to kind of chat with us or kind of check in anything as well. All right, so we'll kind of finish off things here with the karakia, and Louise and I will be here to kind of answer any questions as well. And we've got Eliza as well, if you want to kind of ask her about leads or any kind of exchange questions too. Me karakia tātou. Kia hora te marina, kia whakapapa pounamu te moana, kia tere, te karohirohi, mua e tauhuarahi. Humie, huie, taekia. Kia ora te whānau. Thanks very much for listening in. Yeah, enjoy the rest of your semester time. And like I said, we'll be around if you want to ask any questions.